Manx Radio's update with Lewis Foster.
Fastamai, good evening. It's 5 o'clock on Friday, the 25th of October. Welcome along to Update, your half-hour look at the latest news on and from the Isle of Man. Coming up, as Alfred Cannan prepares to face a vote of no confidence, one MHK has put his name forward to be Chief Minister. There's concern ahead of winter for those struggling with energy costs, and Lockie Kirk returns home. All that and more, plus as ever we'll keep you posted on anything to watch out for travel-wise. And your thoughts always welcome too on any of tonight's stories. Text 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. But first of all, Siobhan Fletcher has the headlines for us. Fastamai, Siobhan.
Fastamai. An Oncan man has been jailed for 21 years and 9 months after producing drugs to the Isle of Man. Leroy Stephen McCarry of Nursery Avenue was also involved in laundering £600,000 of drug money. The 25-year-old was described as the local link to a pre-existing criminal network on Merseyside. His sentencing means the conclusion of the Isle of Man Constabulary's Operation Trident. Manx Care says that the time surgeons have been operating on patients has not reduced due to its elective surgery cost-cutting measures. It says a review of patient activity has shown that surgeons have delivered the same hours in surgery in the 5 weeks since the 16th of September 2024 as they did for the same period in the financial year 2023-24. Douglas Central MHK Chris Thomas has thrown his hat in the ring to be the island's next Chief Minister. It comes ahead of a motion of no confidence in Alfred Cannan being brought to the House of Keys next week. Manx Utilities believes it's done everything it can to ensure it can build a new sewage treatment works in the west of the island. Over the last 3 days, a planning inspector has been hearing evidence. And the Crooks Wildlife Park is celebrating the birth of a flamingo chick for the first time in 18 years. Further afield, the UK's most prolific catfish, who drove a 12-year-old girl in the US to take her own life, has been jailed for at least 20 years. Alexander McCartney from South Armagh befriended young girls online, persuaded them to send sexual images, then blackmailed them. And the World Health Organization says it's lost touch with personnel at a hospital in Gaza following reports of a raid by Israeli forces. They're your headlines. I'll have your news for you at 6.
Gromayed, thank you, Siobhan Fletcher. Now, the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing. Outbreaks of rain and drizzle soon developing this evening, but these will then clear early tonight, with the rest of the night dry. Light or moderate winds, the lowest temperature tonight 10 degrees. Much of tomorrow will then be dry with good sunny intervals before a band of rain arrives around 5 p.m. or so. However, this won't last long. Clearing away during the evening, the south or southwest winds will increase to become fresh to strong in the afternoon, then veering west or northwest in the evening. Maximum temperature tomorrow 14 degrees. Then dry and bright at first on Sunday, but thickening cloud bringing rain by late afternoon. This then turning heavy at times as strong southwest winds develop. Sunset tonight, well, it's already pretty dark, but 5:57 apparently, and sunrise tomorrow morning at 8 minutes past 8.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Cannell's Agricultural Supplies have been serving the good folk of the north for over 30 years, supplying homegrown wheats, whole and rolled oats, working clothing, fencing, animal feeds, parts, tools and emergency supplies. Call Julia on 880206 or find Cannell's on Facebook.
Patricia Wild Opticians is celebrating over 30 years of friendly, caring service in Farm Hill and Ramsey. Visit us for professional eye care with stress-free parking. Phone Patricia Wild Opticians on 813 977.
For over 25 years, Langness Maintenance Services have been the block paving specialists, including property maintenance, fencing and landscaping. Fast, reliable and competitive. For a free no-obligation quote, call Paddy on 49667. Langness Maintenance Services, 49667.
One architectural design company has particular expertise in achieving planning approval for a wide variety of projects, from landmark buildings to spectacular homes. Talk to the experts at Ellis Brown and get your project off the ground. For excellence in design, search Ellis Brown.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
And the time now, 5:05. Douglas Central MHK Chris Thomas has thrown his hat in the ring to be the island's next Chief Minister. It comes ahead of a motion of no confidence in Alfred Cannan being brought to the House of Keys next week. Since being sacked from his ministerial role last year, Mr Thomas has formed a rebel alliance with two other colleagues, Onken's Julie Edge and Douglas South member Claire Christian. There are two ways the vote next week could go, of course, but Mr Thomas says it's time for change.
The way I see it as a purist, it's government which comes out of the House of Keys after an election that should be setting the priorities in the light of what the people have told the politicians at the elections. And at the moment, it seems to me we've got Treasury running the show. Treasury's got officers embedded in all the departments that tell the departments what they might get funding for and what they might not get funding for. And I want to go back to the time when we had a national government programme spending our precious public reserves where we needed to do it according to an election. At this moment in an electoral cycle, coming into the fourth year, experience is going to matter, because what we need now is we need to fix the problems that need to be fixed urgently, and we need to set out clearly the options that exist for fundamental things like energy strategy, national insurance, pensions, so much more, housing, clearly, so that the election can help us make the bold, big decisions that we need to make. So yes, I am a candidate, because in the same way that I didn't vote for either of the Chief Minister candidates back in 2021 because there weren't clear policy direction on the table, I am available now. And if I was to have my colleagues to need me and for the people to need a politician like me, somebody who's with my sort of attention to detail, forensic analysis, laying out costed, funded options for 2 years up until the election to make sure the 2026 election is better than the 2021, it would be my privilege to serve.
Douglas Central MHK Chris Thomas speaking there. We'll see how that vote goes on Tuesday. Now, Manx Care has issued a statement defending a number of new leadership roles and service changes which have received a lot of public attention. Siobhan Fletcher's been taking a look at that statement and joins me in the studio now. Siobhan, what's going on?
Yeah, Lewis, so you might have heard our story in the news yesterday or read it online about the creation of 14 management posts in Manx Care since the board's formation in 2021 at a cost of more than £800,000 per year. That figure was published in response to a Tynwald question from Onken MHK Julie Edge, and it's inevitably caused a lot of public discussion, and this statement is essentially Manx Care responding to that. The healthcare body is here saying it's essential to clarify that both the creation of those roles and the temporary reduction in elective surgeries, which is the other big story of the moment, are essentially separate and address distinct strategic and operational needs. It says each grounded in best practices for sustainable health and social care. It's arguing that it's wholly incorrect to draw any conclusions that these necessary financial measures are related in any way to the creation of those 14 leadership roles that have been appointed to over the last 3 years.
So what does it say about those roles and why they've been created then?
It says that they're critical roles and that without them Manx Care would face substantial risks, including non-compliance with the island's regulators and inspectorates, all of which would compromise their ability to deliver health and care services. They say a number of them directly respond to the recommendations of the independent COVID-19 review, which was led by Kate Brunner KC and was accepted in principle by Tynwald.
You mentioned the temporary reduction in elective surgeries there too, and they've provided an update on that front too as well.
Yeah, so the board has released new figures which it say show that despite the recent reduction in the number of theatre sessions allocated, a review of patient activity of the last 5 weeks has shown that they've delivered the same hours of surgery during this period as they did in the same period last year due to service improvements and improved theatre efficiency. Essentially, it says this means that the time surgeons have been operating on patients has not reduced due to these cost-saving measures.
Siobhan Fletcher, thank you, Guramayed. The time now, 9 minutes past 5. You're listening to Update on Manx Radio. Food prices, heating and keeping up with their budget during the winter months is still a concern for lots of people on the Isle of Man, according to the Salvation Army. The charity is holding a free budgeting course next month, hoping to help people understand their own attitudes to money and look at the impact borrowing can have. Chanel Suku spoke to Karen Fielden and Fraser Kinley, who previously took part in the course, about how it helped them.
I was struggling, basically I needed the support to get control.
My money seemed to be going out the window faster than, like, wait, I shouldn't, what's happening? And it has given me better control, given me tips on like you mentioned, the statements and things like that, and not to be so impulsive buying, oh, I'd like that, and take a step back, and do I really need that? And yeah, it's been very helpful.
It was the big drop in salary to pension, and never had to budget or anything before, and suddenly you're on half the money. You manage it first because you've got savings and things like that, and then just suddenly there's just not the money there. For me, I've been very impulsive, and that looks good. And there's that old saying, oh, you only live once. It's like, well, I can't just live on that. So I'll never, my long-term goals won't happen if I'm always like impulsively, oh, you live once. And yeah, so it can be hard, but I'm like slowly learning. It gets easier with time.
What's some of the top tips that you guys have learned through the course?
A couple of people in the course mentioned groceries delivered rather than going, and it's like, oh, let me try that. And I was going every week and then taking a taxi home. Well, this way I pay a small fee. I just do a bigger shop twice a month. So that bang off the first session, that's a big savings right there. Closer to £200 a month. It's kind of keeping away from the internet shopping. That's the first stage. That's the big thing, is keeping away from the internet.
In this current economy that we're in, how difficult is it to stick to that budget?
I don't think it'd be easy for anybody, never mind those who are already struggling. I think everybody is probably struggling nowadays. Yeah, everything's jumped up since COVID. Like you mentioned, like wages or pension, whatever. It's not keeping up with it. Yeah, it's crazy.
Thank you to Karen and Fraser sharing their stories with Chanel there. Now, the business news. There'll be a chance to quiz the people responsible for the island's net zero strategy as part of an Energy Future Isle of Man event at the Gaiety Theatre on the 7th of November, staged by the Energy and Sustainability Centre and hosted by Imogen Bogle, widely known as presenter and producer of live events such as The Fully Charged Show and Everything Electric. The gathering will also be used to launch the new Island Power app. The Energy and Sustainability Centre's spokesman is Ralph Peake, and he's been talking to Simon Richardson.
We've got the time for a deep conversation with our guests. It's also the launch of our Island Power app, and this will enable people then to play around with what they would like to see the future of renewable energies to be, what the mix will be and what the costs will be actually here on the Isle of Man.
Interesting. The Island Power app, what is it exactly, and what kind of information can people get from it?
This really is a tool to help people understand what different mixes of renewable energy and what the costs will be. These are based on costs from around the world. It's been put together by Dr. David Quirk of the Danish Technical University in partnership with the Energy and Sustainability Centre. And so we've taken costs of actual projects from around the world, and so it just gives people that idea of what the different costs will be compared to wind, let's say. So you could get the cost of wind, what that would be per kilowatt hour, and what that would be against a small nuclear reactor, let's say, or tidal. These are all things that people are interested in and often bring out as alternatives to wind and solar. And so what we've done is put together what the actual costs are to provide this infrastructure. So people will be able to just work on that, put their preference in and see what the kilowatt hour cost would be.
Now, the event offers an opportunity also to have a deep conversation, you say, with people responsible for the net zero strategy. Are the commitments made in that realistic, and are they currently on track?
Well, this is why we want this opportunity to hear from the Deputy Chief Minister. The Chief Minister is actually away on business in the UK at the time, so it's great to have the Deputy Chief Minister with us. And we're having enough time to get into that deep conversation to really understand now what the current drive and situation is with government and give them the platform to actually answer questions to people in the audience. We do want to try and have that integration with the audience. So we've got a great presenter coming over, Imogen Bogle, and she's got a great history with fully charged shows, and that's live shows as well as podcasts and TV. So she really is a very easy to understand, likeable person, and so that really we think will get a really nice deep conversation out of guests.
Ralph Peake from the Energy and Sustainability Centre speaking to Simon there. That event will run between 7:30pm and 9pm at the Gaiety on the 7th of November. Entry is £4. Now, the latest stock market report from Ramsey Crookall. UK and European markets ended with mixed results today. Wall Street stocks were in the green early on, but was still on track for a losing week. Gold prices fell as some investors booked profit after its recent rally where it hit a record high, although ongoing tensions in the Middle East helped limit the decline. Oil prices were heading for a weekly gain of more than 2%, with today's prices little changed on the day, as traders were kept on edge by simmering tensions in the Middle East ahead of a planned resumption in Gaza's ceasefire talks in the coming days. Markets at the close, the FTSE 100 down 0.23% to 8,250, and the DAX up 0.13% to 19,467. A short time ago, the Dow Jones up 0.08% to 42,407, the S&P 500 up 0.72% to 5,851, and the Nasdaq up 1.39% to 18,671. British pound sterling trading at $1.298 US dollars and 1.199 euros. Gold up 0.21% to 2,741 US dollars. And a barrel of Brent up 1.5% to $75.65.
I'm running late again. Do you know where I put my car keys?
In the fridge.
Where's my phone?
Under the dog basket.
Bye.
You haven't forgotten that we're seeing Ramsey Crookall later?
Oh, no, of course not. 5 p.m, is it?
3:45.
I'll be there.
Life is busy. That's why Ramsey Crookall's team takes time to help you make a mindful investment decision, considering all the options, giving you full control of your financial future. Less stress, more assurance.
Forgot to put my shoes on.
Oh.
See how we can make your money work for you. Call 717171 or visit ramseycrookall.com. Licensed and regulated by the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
And let's take a look at the roads now, shall we?
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
Well, nothing to report from police tonight. Braddon Road back to normal. Resurfacing work by the hospital is complete, so the temporary one-way system has been stood down and all restrictions have been lifted. In Douglas, until the 15th of November, Victoria Road is one-way between Stanley Place and Broadway in a southerly direction, that's towards Broadway, for electrical installation works. And until the 6th of December, temporary lights on Governor's Road near Governor's Bridge and Blackberry Lane, 24 hours a day to replace the street lighting. Heading over to Peel, until the 1st of November, temporary lights on Douglas Road near QE2 School, 24 hours a day for water main replacement. Fireworks night there too out west tonight, so I imagine there'll be a bit more traffic than normal later on tonight. Looks like no problems over at the airport, and over on the sailings, the Manannan due into Liverpool in around 15 to 20 minutes time. Meanwhile, the Manxman is currently sailing back to Douglas from Heysham. She'll be here shortly after 6 o'clock, and all sailings tomorrow due on schedule as well.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at
Quayside.
The time now 18 minutes past 5. A new Director of Public Health has been announced. Dr. Matt Tyra will now lead the team, as Amy Griffiths reports.
Professor Hugo van Woerden had been in the role on an interim basis after Dr. Henrietta Hewitt left in May 2022. Dr. Matt Tyra took up the position on the 30th of September. He's moved to the island from the UK, where he's been Director of Public Health for Cheshire East Council for the past 5 years. A trained doctor with more than a decade of public health experience, Dr. Tyra led an award-winning team through the COVID-19 pandemic, chaired Cheshire and Merseyside Public Health Collaborative, and developed Cheshire East Council as a public health training and development location. He's also an honorary lecturer in public health at Keele University. Dr. Tyra's team will now focus on long-term population health for the island. He wants to bring his passion for improving health and well-being to this spectacular and unique island community. He says he firmly believes that we can do things now that will make things better for ourselves, our children and generations to come, and looks forward to working to create a healthy and happy future for the Isle of Man.
Amy Griffiths there. You can find that story at manxradio.com. Now, FC Isle of Man's manager believes his team should have a no-fear attitude when they travel to face current title contenders Chatterton in the NWCFL Premier Division tomorrow afternoon. The teams played out a 2-2 draw on the opening day of the season in late July, and Paul Jones thinks his side's performance that day proved he has a squad that can compete with the best in the league.
You know, we were 2-0 up. We probably should have gone on and seen the game out at the time. They went on and have have done very well, and we had a bit of a patchy run of form the 10 games after that. So, firstly, there's nothing to fear, but they're a very good side with good attacking threat and quality. But, we're certainly capable of causing them more than a few problems, and we're looking forward to that challenge. Respect them, but believe that we've got more than enough in the locker to give them a really difficult game. They've got a similar sort of playing group to last year. They've got a way of playing that everybody knows, and that obviously works well for them, and they're maybe going a little bit more direct this season than they were last season, and certainly maybe even were when we played them at home. So everyone looked at that result at the time and were disappointed to not win the game. We knew at the time that draw, in the context of how the season will play out, we knew they were going to be one of the top teams in the division this year. So they're an experienced group. They've got lots of quality. We've got some good attacking threat of our own, and touch wood, our defence has been fairly resolute. What we looked at on Tuesday night was getting better at being us again. We spoke about not letting up and making sure that we keep the pressure on and we keep moving forward. We're not the finished article by any stretch of the imagination, and we need to keep improving to keep winning games at this level of football. So it's about getting better at being ourselves, and I've said that a number of times to you, but we know what we're trying to do, and it's about giving the players the tools in order to do that. We've got a fresh and hungry group because of their age and because of some of their lack of experience of playing at this level, but also because some of those experienced players have had time away through enforced reasons, through injury or otherwise, and they're coming back really hungry and ready to push hard into the dark winter months.
Time now, 21 minutes past 5. A scroll bearing the signatures of over 900 representatives from the RNLI, as well as Prince Edward, the Duke of Kent, made its way to the Isle of Man. The document has been all around Britain, and its final destination was back where the RNLI started, thanks to Douglas resident Sir William Hillary 200 years ago. The last volunteer to sign was Emily Heaton, the first female coxswain at Douglas Lifeboat Station.
Emily Heaton. I'm one of the volunteer crew at Douglas.
I've just heard that you were the last volunteer signature on the scroll. Is that right?
That is correct. I was the last signature yesterday.
How did that feel, doing that as the last one before potentially the King?
I think it's really special. Obviously, every signature on that scroll represents the community of the RNLI, but to be the final one, I suppose, back in the birthplace of the institution was particularly special.
How did you get into volunteering in the RNLI?
Well, that goes back a long time. So when I was probably about 3 or 4, we came on holiday to the island. I lived in the UK at the time, and we always went to the lifeboat days, particularly in Port Erin with the raft races and things. And I joined Stormforce, which is like the kids club that the RNLI have. And I guess I sort of watched the lifeboats and things, and back then they used to take families out on a bit of a launch with them, which we can't do anymore, sadly, due to health and safety. So when I turned 18 and I moved to the island, it was just a natural thing. Well, I want to do something for my community. So I popped into the boathouse and said, how do I join?
And now you're the first female coxswain in Douglas?
That is correct, yeah. I passed my coxswain sort of assessment in December, so I was the first female in Douglas and I think the second female coxswain on the island. So yeah, really special.
That's female coxswain at Douglas Lifeboat Station, Emily Heaton, speaking to local democracy reporter Emma Draper there. Now, a young man who suffered severe head injuries in a road traffic collision in January 2022 is set to return home tonight. Whilst Lockie Kirk has spent nearly 3 years receiving treatment in Liverpool, work has been underway to adapt a suitable home for the 21-year-old here on the island. Dubbed Ballalockie, the work is being completed by project manager and close family friend Jonathan Neen.
Absolutely brilliant news for the family. It'll be 3 years in January when Lockie had the accident. He's been away in Liverpool ever since. So now obviously it's a case of getting the family back together, which is absolutely fantastic. And then moving on. And, you know, as I say, without the generosity of people, that just couldn't have happened. I just like to thank everybody who's been involved with the build, the extension build, the cottage renovation and adaptation for Lockie. Thank you so much on behalf of Lockie and his family, and obviously myself as project manager. You've all been an absolute dream to work with. We are, however, still looking for somebody to do some concrete footpaths and 2 concrete ramps to outside the house. You know, this is really critical now in getting Lockie in and out of the extension and the the cottage easy. If there is anybody at all who can come and help us with sponsoring some concrete, with sponsoring some labour, with carrying out some labour, please just get in touch and we can get this done and finished for Lockie to make life extremely easy when he's home. He's really looking forward to coming home, seeing everyone and having a look to see what we've built for him, because he hasn't been home for a number of weeks and we've done an incredible amount of work over the last few weeks to get the thing ready for him. So it'll be good to see him home and to see his reaction when he sees Lockie.
Great news from Jonathan there, and a lovely message today as well from Lockie's dad Daniel, who says they had very mixed emotions when they left Liverpool, as Lockie will miss the staff at the Walton Centre, Sid Watkins and Derby House. You can find all those details and listen back to that interview over at manxradio.com. Now, Manx Radio's sports editor, Rob Pritchard, joins me in the studio with today's sporting news. Faster my, Rob.
Faster my, Lewis. Well, a potentially poignant weekend awaits in the latest Isle of Man football fixtures, which sees the top four sides in Ardern and Drug Unlimited Division 2 face off against each other. Colby, top of the pile on 18 points after 7 games, travel to Douglas High School Old Boys, who are 2 points back in third, but with a game in hand. Meanwhile, second place Braddon, also on 16 points, but ahead of Old Boys on goal difference, are at home to Michael United in fourth. All of Saturday's fixtures are due to kick off across the divisions at 2:30pm, with the exception of St Mary's versus Ayr United in Canada Life Combination 1, which starts at the earlier time of 1:45. And you can see details of all Saturday's matches at manxradio.com. There are no matches on Sunday due to it being the half-term break. Meanwhile, after a positive home display last time out, Douglas face arguably their biggest test of the season so far tomorrow as part of the latest Manx rugby games. They're on the road in Regional 2 North West at 2pm on Saturday at Burnage, who are looking to chase the teams towards the top of the table. Another Island team on the road on Saturday is Ramsey. The Northerners travel to New Brighton in the Cheshire Vars. There's also a local derby tomorrow at 2:15pm in the Cheshire Bowl competition as Southern Nomads head west to face Western Vikings. And in hockey, a mixture of both on and off island action for Manx teams this weekend. In the league, mixed divisions 1, 2 and 3 are in action from 11 o'clock tomorrow morning and throughout the afternoon. Elsewhere, 5 of the Isle of Man's national teams head across the water over the next 2 days in the England Hockey Knockout Championships. On Saturday, the Isle of Man Ladies A are at Goulburn and Prescott firsts, and the Isle of Man Men's A squad are at West Derby first in the respective Tier 2 championships. At Tier 3, Isle of Man Ladies B play Liverpool Sefton seconds tomorrow, and then on Sunday, the Manx Under-18 boys go to Preston.
Gormiad, thank you, Rob. That's it for Update tonight. You can hear Rob again on Friday Sport Preview coming up next. Then Chris Kinley's here in an hour with Greatest Hits, and Update will be back at the same time on Monday. Have a great weekend.